Hello everybody, welcome. Today I'm gonna prepare here a quick and dirty, simple Nextcloud setup on AWS. So the first thing we're gonna do is go to EC2 here. And I'm gonna go to launch instances. I'm familiar with Debian, so I'm gonna choose it, but the procedure is pretty much the same with every distribution. You just need to know how to manage packages and so on. So, but I'm just muted just because these messages are gonna drive me very crazy. Where were we? Yeah, so I'm choosing Debian because I'm familiar with it, but you can pick a favorite distribution. Just be aware of where the configuration files are and how to install packages. So let me just find it out. Is there no Debian? Search. Ah, there we go. So Debian 10 SSD, that's fine. We can select it. I'm not gonna go for the free tier instance. It's enough for our test. But let's not launch it directly. Let's go through the configuration details. So first we go next. And I want a public IP. I'm gonna pick the subnet just so I know where it is. So let's go for EU1A. This can be okay. I don't want it to die and be terminated if it stops. So just in case, you need to recover it from somewhere, yeah? I don't want monitoring, I want this cheap and easy. So that will be enough, yeah? Let's add some storage. And here, for our experiment, 8 gigs as a system volume will be enough because we're gonna mount the storage outside using S3 or EFS. So 8 gigs will do the job. And I'm not gonna delete on termination in case I need to change instance size or I don't know, move it somewhere else or just relaunch it in some other configuration. Then it's good to have the EBS volume available. No tags, but I'm gonna use a security group. I already created a security group that covers my home IP addresses. So I'm gonna enable it here. Because I'm not gonna set up a HTTPS in this demo, it's just gonna be Nextcloud and basic connectivity. Review and launch, and I trust everything is fine. I click launch. Then of course you need a key pair to be able to log in, and I already have one, so I'm gonna acknowledge that I have access to it. If you don't, then create your own. Right, my instance is up. So let's check here the IP address. I have an IP address here, and I'm not gonna hide this now because after this experiment is over, I will delete the instance. So I copy this here, and I'm gonna go to the terminal. All right, I'm logged into my instance. Let's quickly update the packages. So I can do cd update. One command at a time is good enough for us. Amazon internet connection is very fast, so, and they probably also host internally the packages, so it's excellent performance. 3 packages to be upgraded. Now we're going to install the basic requirements for Nextcloud, and that will be basically PHP, Apache as a web server, and MariaDB. Now we need 2 more packages here. One to be able to download Nextcloud from their page, and the second one to unzip it. So wget will do and unzip. All right, let's do the pre-configuration of PHP. So I use Vim, but use whatever you prefer. You see that the version is 7.3, so I'm logging into configuration folder under 7.3, so Apache 2, PHP, and I. And of course, you can tweak this a bit more, but I'm worried only about some basic functionality, and it has been working for me very well at home. I have 6 constant users and more than 2 terabytes of data, and the performance is just great. So it works for me. First thing to do is memory limit, because PHP may end up using more memory or the scripts running. So 512 is a good number, and I need to start over because I'm not using sudo. So let's do this. Will be 512. Now people will upload things, and 2 megabytes just won't do. So I'm going to increase this to 2 gigs. And the post size also has been increased to 2 gigs. And the execution time is gonna increase for sure. Let's say 10 minutes. And now all my servers are set on etc, so we can set the date here to etc. etc. And that's enough. Now we can start and enable both Apache and MariaDB. And enable them on boot. Next step is to create a quick database for everything. So let's go to my SQL. And here, it's gonna ask for a password, but you're logged in using a cert, and it's configured to accept root from the system, so just enter will do. And we can create a database for Nextcloud and a user. I'm not gonna hide the credentials here because I'm gonna delete this whole setup after I'm done. So we can create a database, Nextcloud database. And then we can create a user, and that will be, let's call the user, localhost will do, identified by, doesn't matter. Now we need to grant permissions to this user on the database that we created. So we should grant all on NCDB, basically everything there, to NCDB user and localhost. And then exit. Very well. So now next step here is gonna be to download Nextcloud. So we can just first go to the Nextcloud page. Get the server packages. I think here we can just download it and open it here. Back to our terminal, we can wget the latest release. Amazon has great internet, as you would expect, so it comes really quickly. And then I unzip Nextcloud. It's going to create a subfolder, and everything else that you need. Right, next here is we need to assign ownership of this folder to the user used by the web server by Apache. So we can just issue change on recursive. In Debian, the folder is www.data, but in some servers, it's going to be just www, for example, I think for FreeBSD. So you need to know your system here, yeah. And now we also change the permissions to 755. Again, these permissions are not all that great if you think about it, that other users and groups can read the data. In my production installation, I have it set in a way that even I, logged in as root, cannot access the data. Basically, it's on an FS mount in my NAS, and the user has been assigned over there only to the www data user. So if I want to access the data, I need to be root in my NAS. But for now, for the sake of the exercise, our focus here is AWS, so it doesn't really matter. Now let's create just a quick configuration file in Apache for Nextcloud. I'm not going to choose any server name here based on FQDN because I'm not going to register this anywhere, yeah, so IP is enough. So it's going to load on subfolder Nextcloud and not on root folder. My real setup doesn't use that, and I regret it. So if you just log into the domain, try to access the domain of your Nextcloud installation, you're gonna get to the login page, and I wish I had set up a subfolder, but now it's too late and my setup is already too complicated to change this basic structure, so, but if I ever redo my setup, that will be it. Now we close the directory. Save our configuration file, and we can enable the page, the required modules, and then restart Apache. Yeah, probably made a mistake on the configuration file. Let's have a look. Aha! I not added the directory name. I don't get anywhere. All right. Now if I go to the IP address, I should get the login page. And go back to the browser and go to this beautiful IP. All right. I'm gonna call the admin user admin, and then password will be admin. And by the way, another thing that's good to do here, we can open Vim, and here I can save the database information for later. Yeah, so let me just scroll up here, and I'll go find where I had the information about the database. So let me just scroll up, disable mouse reporting because it's hell. Only those two lines, so the database name and the credentials. Can paste it here. I can just use any, actually, let's do random string generator. I don't care, I just want anything. This will do. And I can paste this in my configuration file. When you have this in production, you definitely don't want to do it like I'm doing. One thing I'm gonna do now here, just because old habits die hard, I am gonna create a data folder outside of the web root. Right, so in case of some security issue, people will not be able to browse manually through and get access to all the files. Yes, so I just can do I'm gonna do now Nextcloud, and then I can assign it to the web server. Yeah, will do. So now it's gonna be /anything. And remember, we're gonna not have much data here because once this goes up, I'm not gonna use this data folder. We are gonna create an S3 bucket and point it there, and later on we're gonna use UFS as well. So let's do first here. Let's go back to terminal. My database user is NC user, the password is pass, the database is NCDB, and we are doing it on localhost. We don't want to install recommended apps. We can do finish setup. Let me just copy this IP again. And it redirects to localhost, but if you come here and just paste back the IP, your game. View if I'm logged in, and the performance is going to naturally be excellent because this is running AWS. And from here, if we go to settings, you're going to see that there are a few components missing, and I'm going to cover them with you just after cutting this video. You see important things missing here. I'm not going to cover this, the phone region set. I honestly don't care about it. We are not going to do HTTPS, but we are going to configure the memory cache using Redis, because Redis is something that you can later on do via AWS. But I'm going to store here the missing modules. Yeah. So I'm just quickly cut this video and come back in a second. All right, continuing. We have our basic simple installation, and let's try to install the missing PHP modules here. So I'm just gonna do a guess here that if I do install PHP, it's gonna work. Yeah, and it does. So I have PHP INTL and the 7.3 related version. Let's try this math. Works. VMP works. Next one will be magic. Wow, lots of dependencies. Let's go. Okay, let's start Apache just in case and refresh. No SVG support. There are security concerns around image magic. So if you don't really need it, you shouldn't install it. I have it, but it's up to you. Yeah? So I think if we install image magic, we get all the required extensions. Let's try again to refresh. And we are good. So now the next step is to install memory cache. So let's get on to it. To support Redis, we're gonna need two packages, so we can install them like this. Redis server and PHP Redis. And I think Yeah, so Debian already configures it to start automatically up, so we don't need to do that. We can now do the configuration. So the first step is to, how is it? Go to the Redis configuration file and configure a few things. So first thing here is we're going to run it locally. This is a single instance, very low cost installation, meaning that you pay for your data, the EC2 instance is cheap, but if it goes down or up, we know that our EBS volume, our local service storage is good, and our data is secure, but the solution is not scalable, is not highly available, it just works. Yeah, we're gonna build it with better stability later on. So first thing is, since we're running locally, we're gonna change the remote port here to a local for port 0. So it's gonna basically only run locally. So, and my English is dead today. So next thing is init socket. So we are gonna run it in a local socket, and I'm gonna copy this because we'll need this later. And our permissions for the socket are gonna be changed to 770. So not only the Redis user can run it, but also users in the Redis group can run it. And we are gonna then add Apache, so www data, to the Redis group, so it can also write and read and write the socket. I can quit, write and quit. So that's what I was talking about before. So we're gonna do user mod, so add to group Redis, the user www data. Wonderful. And then we do service Apache to restart. And yeah, sometimes I use systemctl, sometimes I use service. I use this for a long time, so sometimes the syntax gets messed up in my head. This server stuff. Good. Now we're gonna go to the Nextcloud configuration and configure it to start using Redis. Yeah. Let's just confirm everything is still okay. Yep. So now we go to the Nextcloud configuration and add what we need. No, not here. So it's in HTML, Nextcloud, config, php. So let's get it added here. I'm gonna do it. So here. So we demand cache the local, so we want the local cache to go also on Redis. You could have some local cache on APCU and remote cache on Redis for locking, but I'm gonna put everything in the same place. So main cache Redis name cache locking. So for tracking file locking, so that will also be Redis. Good. Then file locking enabled. So we are going to use file locking just to make sure that we don't lose data. And Redis configuration will come next. So it's an array. All right. So we open the array here, and host will be the one that we wrote here. Then we need a port, and that will be 0. And I guess we also don't need a timeout, so we can make it 0. And we close this array and we are good. Let's see if this works. Okay, so looking into the logs, I just forgot to... Basically, I fucked up the configuration file, yeah, and then after that, it started working just fine, yeah. And the message complaining that I'm missing a cache for the database is gone, which means our installation is complete. Let's configure it now to use S3 as object storage instead of our local, very small block storage that's mounted direct to the VM, yeah? So first thing, of course, we need to create a bucket. So we go to the S3 management console in AWS, we create the bucket. We will choose same region here for us. We will call it Nextcloud number. Right, we paste it into our text file here. And the region is going to be in central 1. Is that so? Yeah. And we're gonna turn off all public access, no versioning. We don't want that, otherwise our storage costs are gonna go really high. We can enable S3 standard encryption, all fine. Warning that this setup is not really hardened in terms of security, right? What I'm gonna do here now is, now that we have the bucket, just for you to see how the configuration works, I'm gonna do IAM, and I'm gonna create a user for Nextcloud to be able to access the bucket. I'm gonna attach full S3 permissions directly to that user. But if you're using this in production, you should really create a group, a role, and attach the permissions to that, create a policy, and then attach it to a group, and create a user for that, only for that bucket. Yeah, that's gonna be more secure, but it's out of the scope of this video. So that's going to be user Nextcloud temp, and we only want it for programmatic access, right? And we are gonna attach the permissions directly. We're gonna make it S3 full access. Then I don't want any tags. We'll create the user, and we can leave this here for now, yeah? Now, what we do, we have a bucket and we have our user. So I'm just gonna follow the Nextcloud manual. So let's edit the configuration file and add what we need there. And make this a bit cleaner. All right. We're gonna change this. I think I don't need to change the data directory. Let's try it out. I'm gonna go for object store. Close quote. Big north arrow. Open the bracket. Plus will be C files object store S3 with arguments. Nice bracket. Bucket will be the one we created here. Want to create true. I assume that this would create the bucket if it's not done. But let's just follow the instructions here. Now the key will be the user key that we have created in IAM, AWS. So we can just copy it from here, paste it. Then we're gonna have the secret. Same thing, we copy from here and then paste. And don't worry, I'm deleting these users. Fear not. The host name will be... Actually, we don't have a host name because it's native S3, so I don't need to enter this information. We are gonna naturally use SSL. What else? The region, they say it's optional, which means it would actually naturally find the bucket, but it doesn't hurt to enter the region here. It should work fine. So region will be central one. Then use path style and see what they say about it. Use path style is not required and it's not compatible with newer Amazon data centers. Alright, so no path style. We close this bracket and we close the next one, the previous one, and we save this. Let's see what happens. Error, of course. Never works on the first time. When I tried it the other day, it worked. Let's see what the error logs have to say. I'm checking the error file here and I see a classic case of fat fingering. So let's go to line 18 and see what is going on. Aha, my secret here is missing a command. Alright, we fix it. And we should be good to go. Yes, now it's doing something. So in theory, it should give us a clear folder, and because everything is going to be going to the bucket. So let's go to files and see what happens. Yes, nothing is here, which means it's using S3. Now, warning, you need to be very careful here. Depending on how Nextcloud is configured, it may start issuing a lot of API calls, for example, to refresh the folder every time someone loads it or to generate previews. You may end up really paying a lot. So in some cases, EFS may be better, or even, keep your files on-prem, I don't know, and then synchronize with AWS. If you are doing a home setup, this can be dangerous. I'm not sure if CloudFront could help here, but, well, you are warned. You may want to disable like previews and use aggressive caching settings just to make sure that you're not hitting S3 often, and probably using a CloudFront entry point, which would require changing that host name in the configuration file, could resolve the problem. We have nothing here, and if we go to S3, you're also gonna see that the bucket is still empty. Oh, no, there are already some files there, which means that something's going on. Now, if we go back to here and we can welcome to Nextcloud Well, on S3, it is amazing. See, so for example, here there will be a case where you're typing, and every time it saves your preview, then it's issuing API calls to S3. So be mindful of that. All right, going to S3. We have now 288 files. So as you can see, there's a lot going on here. But it works. I'm gonna just disable the API key pair for the user here that I have in IAM, so I don't disrupt all the setup. And I will turn the VM off. And tomorrow I will configure EFS, see how it works. And next time I'm gonna prepare the database using Amazon services and also Redis on Amazon. And then we're gonna create an instance, see if it works, use it as a template for some sort of auto-scaling group, put it behind the load balancer and see what happens. So stay tuned, I guess. And I'll see you next time.